Hello, friends. This is Jim Ransom, and I'm going to start a program called Morning Jim. This is going to appear at God only knows what intervals, but it's to help you keep up to date on what I'm doing. And some people might say, well, I'm going to play this in the evening at bedtime to help me sleep, which will be okay too. Morning Joe has already been here, and I had coffee. He goes fishing after he brings the coffee, as you can see, but it was pretty good. And now that I'm coffeeed up, the caffeine is starting to take effect, I'm ready to go. I think we ought to start off the day with one of the jokes that was sent to me by my friend Herschel Stroud. Herschel and Jackie Stroud have a lot of friends who send them stories, and I think they probably make up some of them themselves. And here's one that I thought was pretty good. It's a quote from Walt Garrison, who used to be the coach at Oklahoma State. And he said, I asked Darrell Royal, the coach of the Texas Longhorns, why he didn't recruit me when I was a player. And he said, well, Walt, we did take a look at you, and you weren't any good. Now, I like jokes like that, football jokes. And here's another one from Duffy Doherty, the former coach at Michigan State. And he said to an interviewer, he said, I could have been a Rhodes Scholar, except for my grades. Yeah, I think we could all say that. And Duffy Doherty, speaking of him, he said, football is not a contact sport. It is a collision sport. Dancing is a contact sport. So I'll end with a story from Murray Warmath, who used to coach at Minnesota. And he said, if lessons are learned in defeat, our team is getting a great education. Okay, a little humor to start off the day, and then I'm going to say that I'm broadcasting from my daughter, and incidentally, my daughter is right over my shoulder here. And she lives at Rosemont, which is a nice house in the Edgeworth borough of Sewickley, Pennsylvania. We don't have boroughs in Kansas. Our cities and counties and towns and townships and all that are about all that we can keep in touch with. And so we don't have boroughs, but they have plenty of boroughs in Pennsylvania. So we're in the borough of Edgeworth, and I'm sitting on the bench of the breakfast nook in my little house at Rosemont. And if you want to take a little further look around, just look over my shoulder there. There's a beautiful painting in the living room by my granddaughter Andrea, an outstanding artist. So I'm surrounded by nice people here as well as nice art. What could be better? However, I'm coming back to Kansas. I've got plenty to do there and a lot of nice friends. And I'll be at Booster Place on the evening of September 26th. So if anybody wants to send me a note about this broadcast, you can send it to me at jransom. No, sorry. I should have given you my old email address. Maybe I want the notes to go there, but let's be honest. jimransom506@gmail.com. Of course, I like flattery more than criticism, but I probably deserve more of the latter than the former. But I'll let you be the judge. Now, this is an interesting place to be, and one of the reasons why is that there's a television almost every place, and my son-in-law and my daughter and my granddaughter, who has just moved here from the People's Republic of Seattle, she decided that they treated dogs who can go to Starbucks and get whipped cream as a free addition to your own coffee better than they do people. So she decided to come back to Sewickley, and she and I went down to have coffee at the local Starbucks, and she took the dog in with her, and they said, "Oh, we're sorry, but we don't allow dogs in here." And she said, "Well, they allow dogs in the Seattle Starbucks where I have been going, and they don't say anything." And as she was taking the dog out, I said to the little girl at the counter, I said, "Hey, don't be bothered by that." I said, in Seattle, they allow looting and arson and murder and street robbery and all sorts of other stuff that you don't approve of here in Sewickley or Edgeworth. And I said, I like the police better than the looting, and I'll take Sewickley any day. So here we are. We have to go into Starbucks without our dog, but there are other advantages, as I've already pointed out, and my granddaughter agrees with that, actually. So now I have a plan. It doesn't sound like I do, but I have a plan for these broadcasts besides telling you about where I am and what I'm doing, which is not very much because in Pennsylvania, just like in Kansas, we're kind of self-quarantine. But we can still go downtown and shop a little bit in the stores that are open. And we can drive around town and look at the pretty houses. And we can go to the grocery stores that are usually out of what we need. But, we live a fairly good life. And I thought that what I would do besides that stuff while I'm here is to read a little poetry to you and then make some comments on the current news and then let it go at that. I'm going to try to leave politics alone, although, as many of you know, that's going to be a little tough for me. And so if I get off into politics, just forgive me or disagree with me or agree with me, which is what you should do, and we'll just get along fine. All right, now I'm going to be talking, as far as today's news is concerned, about the Tour de France. Tour de France really appeals to my family here because they're bicyclists, especially my son-in-law, who has already done the RAM, the Race Across America, which is actually a lot tougher than the Tour de France. The Tour de France lasts for 21 days. You run the course each day, and then at the end of the day, you go to your hotel or the chateau of a host, and you get a fine French meal, and then you sleep the night through, and then you ride again the next day. That can't be all bad. But in this case of the Race Across America, you start out with a crew that is helping you, and you keep going with only brief periods of napping in the RV that accompanies you, and then you ride from the pier in San Diego all the way across the Mojave Desert, and then through the high desert to Colorado, and then through the Colorado mountains, and then into Kansas, where surprisingly a lot of people give up, and then on across through Missouri and into the Midwest, across the Alleghenies, and then for those who make it, you end up on the East Coast. The winner, within the last 2 or 3 years of this race, made it in 3.5 days. Can you believe that? It's true. The Tour de France is a lot more civilized, I would say. But in watching it, I've learned a lot about the Tour de France. And if you are watching it at all, which you ought to do because there's some beautiful scenery to be seen from the helicopters and from the cameras on the road. And I'm sure they have a few of these automatic airplanes that fly around and you hope don't hit you when you're riding down the road in your bicycle. But anyway, the thing that got me interested primarily was the scoring system, because they have 4 different categories in the race, and one is the overall shortest time to the end of the race after 3 weeks. And they have a winner every day too, and those people wear a yellow jersey, or as the French call it, a maillot jaune. And then the green jersey goes to the fastest sprinter. That's the bicyclist who can go straight on a flat surface the fastest. And then they have a polka dot jersey for the king of the mountains, and that's for the rider who scores the most points on the high elevation climbs. And believe me, in the Tour de France, there are many of those. And then finally, there is a white jersey. It's an extra category for the youngest rider who accumulates the most points. Last year, much to my son-in-law's pleasure, the winner of that was Egan Bernal from Colombia. And surprise, surprise, much to everybody's surprise, Egan Bernal also won the yellow jersey. So he won for the shortest time for the whole race, as well as for being the youngest rider in the race. Coded to that information is the sad news that in this 2020 race that we've been watching, Bernal had to drop out. He had very poor times by mid-race, and the thought is that perhaps he had an illness. We really don't have a final report on him yet, but I think we will. Okay, so that's the story of the Tour de France, and I would recommend that you watch it, and I think you'll enjoy it. The weather has been very nice there, and the French countryside is absolutely gorgeous, including the mountains. Okay, now it's time for a little poetry. You know, I write a lot of poetry, and I think it's only fair that if you're going to watch this show, you ought to have to listen to some poetry. So I'm going to read one called Treadmill. Now that fits right in with today's theme, which is the Tour de France. And that is a lesson in physical effort. And about the only thing that I can say about physical effort is that I spend a lot of time on the treadmill. And here's how it works. Today we start slowly with Boccherini's cello concerto leading the way at a pace of 3.5, but pushing us onward to work at least as hard as Yo-Yo Ma, and trudging solidly and boringly forward, upping the tempo and the pace at least to 4, while the early light peers over the windowsill, steady now at this pace, and maybe a bit more, and the rest of the house, unaware of our labor, stays still. The dog isn't barking or chasing the cat, and faster we go, and tilt, moving up with the effort and speed, so that now we are stretching to max out and striving for peak stride and attempting to take commanding lead until we are jogging and loping, contriving to get the rhythm right in swinging arms and legs, and the sweat is now running along the hair and brows. And it's and where am I here? And the memory of rest is way down in the dregs of thought, and heaving chest sucks air and throws it out in painful great gasps, and finally we slow down to catch Boccherini and the cello note. Strange running music this Italian wrote. Okay, well, I screwed that up, but I'm sorry. Anyway, it's an interesting thought. This was from my 2015 book, Immortal Prairie, in case you happen to have a copy around. You could probably do a better job at reading page 53, which is where treadmill is located, than I did. And so good luck to you on that. Okay. I thought, too, that I would talk a little bit about the COVID virus that's got us all locked down. For those of you at Brewster Place, I think we've all been taken very good care of there. And I have to give kudos to my family here at Rosemont. They've taken very good care of me. And what we do here is in the morning when I wake up, I come down and unlock the front door. And not too long after that, my daughter comes along with the 2 dogs. She makes sure that they make whatever messes they're going to make before they come in the house. And then they start leaping at the door. I let them in. We have a big hello. And of course, they've never been here before every day. It's always a new deal. And my daughter and I sit and read. Usually we read the Wall Street Journal. She gets it in the morning, and we sit down and fight over who gets to read this or that. But we don't spend much time fighting. We spend mostly our time reading. And then when one of us gets hungry enough, we go over and start cooking dinner. No, actually, we start cooking breakfast. And we do it over there. You can see the kitchen counter and the refrigerator and a few things on that side of the room. And so then we have breakfast over here, and we do whatever else we're going to do that day. My daughter's a great gardener, and I can show you the flowers she brought in with her this morning. They're right here. They're beautiful, aren't they? I had no way to tell if I had the camera turned on the flowers or not, but let's hope I did. So we have a great day, and we take walks around the neighborhood. I may go down to the Edgeworth Club, which is a few blocks from here, and they have a nice gymnasium facility that takes up 3 of their basement rooms, and I'll get on the treadmill there and do my thing and use a few of their exercise machines. I'm trying to get in shape. Any shape will probably be better than the shape I'm in, but I'm getting along okay. So that's the story of our lives here at Rosemont and Edgeworth, Pennsylvania. I hope you all are having a great life at Brewster Place or wherever else you might be. And hey, I'll have some more jokes next time. Try to tune in and catch me again sometime. And as I say, don't hesitate, since this is an experimental thing that I'm doing here, don't hesitate to contact me at jimransom506@gmail.com. Flattery works better than criticism, but whatever. I'm up for it. Have a great rest of the day. A wonderful, sunny experience for all of you, I hope. And I'll be back in Topeka soon enough. Bye now.